Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekends with Amit. I hope that all of you had a great week and a better weekend too. This week, we have a very interesting subject as usual, and the subject is forgiveness. Imagine how many movies, how many stories, how many other things have been written about vengeance, about revenge. And think about it, what good has it done to ourselves? On the other hand, forgiveness is a very sensitive subject and often not so glorified. But this is something we really, really need to focus on. Today, to discuss this, we have, as usual, Dr. Amit Goswami and Dr. Valentina Onisor. If we can have them on the screen, please. Welcome.
Thank you, Krishanu.
Thank you.
And let us have a discussion on this subject of forgiveness, which is often not given much of an importance in the social media, or for that matter, any mainstream media. So, first question, as usual, I'll go to Dr. Goswami and ask him that from a quantum sciences point of view, if we look at forgiveness, and how do you think, or what is the impact of this particular aspect in the general overall well-being of human beings?
Well, this certainly is a negative emotion that has very little use except to aggrandize the ego in a certain way. So long as we act in our ego and want to perpetuate that, then the idea of revenge, avenge, all these things make sense, especially if you can connect righteousness with it. But since quantum science sees ourselves not just as a selfish, me-centered self, but also as a quantum self, a oneness, which agreed for most people is a potentiality, except for those brief moments of great insight or intuition when we do connect with the oneness. But somehow, people who seek the revenge into power play, they overlook this quantum connection. Why do ordinary people play the same game? They get culturally persuaded. The culture is such that the negative emotional brain circuit of domination has a direct connection with the idea of revenge. Revenge, if you do something wrong to me that I perceive is wrong in my perception, then I'll take revenge, because otherwise I will be viewed as underdog, dominated, and that, of course, my ego does not satisfy with that denomination. That's how the power play enters. Now, of course, ordinary people don't have that kind of ego. For them, it is more culturally driven. From childhood, people are culturally sort of plays along with this aspect of the ego, this aspect of negative emotions. They approve it, in other words. If somebody has done me wrong, I have a right to avenge the wrong. Of course, the fallacy with that, according to quantum science and according to just common sense, the fallacy of that is that wrong should be made right, agreed, and so we should all not tolerate wrong done to us, but the response is to right the wrong, not at the same time necessarily see the perpetrator of the wrongness as somebody on which I have to personally take the revenge. I should be able to differentiate between sin and the sinner, in other words, the wrongness and the doer of wrongness. Doer, after all, is not ultimately separate from me unless I refuse to correlate with him or her. With the declaration of revenge, we are saying that no, I'll never correlate with you. And that's an exclusion. So, who is suffering? With that exclusion from my consciousness, I am also depriving myself forever of oneness in a permanent kind of way. I'm giving that up in favor of doing something that is culturally and individually, egotistically very satisfying, contributes to power play, which of course is foolish because I don't have, as ordinary people, much power anyway to play the game. So why ordinary people cannot forgive, seeing the harm that it does in terms of their potentiality, is something that we need to correct. We need to point this out that look, people who play the game of power, for them, it makes sense because that is the game they want to play. And that game has gone on in the history of the world for so long, it will take us a long time. You know, democracy was created to get rid of this kind of power play and revenge. But of course, you see how with dictatorships playing around everywhere in the world, the concept of revenge has come back in a big way. Now, political parties, they play the game of revenge. Individual leaders play game of revenge in all kinds of ways. But ordinary people do not play that. And for them, it is just purely a genuine ignorance that is playing through their mind, their psyche, and making them sick. Forgiveness is the antidote to it. It's not an easy practice. It seems easy, but it's not an easy practice because this revenge mindset has many, many tentacles, many different ways that it gets to us, inferiority, superiority, family pride, all kinds of things. So the first thing one really has to teach all of us is that, look, this is what the human condition really is based on all this negativity and me-centeredness, but it is clearly possible to get out of it. In fact, we are born with the requisite provisions already. We all have, when we are born, quite a bit of acquaintance with this higher quantum self, where everybody is one, total inclusion. And then when we turn about 5 or 6, we gradually start taking individuality seriously. And it is then that the society, family, etc., contribute in a major way. Unfortunately, in that age, we are also very vulnerable, very sensitive to things that we call trauma. And these trauma experiences happen mostly because the child is very sensitive and the parents do not have time today. So more and more people suffer trauma and they exclude from that trauma what we are capable of already. The brain does have preponderance of negativity, but the brain has been trained. It does have the potential circuits necessary for loving our mother, maternal love, and certainly romantic love, which of course we don't get to express until we reach puberty. But these two love when engaged, and people did used to engage them. Now they don't, because the culture has become totally different, torn with confusion and materialism and whatnot. But if we do respond to these two things, and many people still do, fortunately, then we have the major arsenal, if that is the right word. Again, we are using the fighting words to describe the situation. It's not a fight. And that is the first thing one has to see it. It's a question of persuasion. Quantum worldview says that fight is Newtonian. Tit versus tat. Action, reaction. This is not the way human beings have to behave. Newtonian behavior is for machines. Human beings are not machines. And they really have the choice. I can choose revenge, I can choose to forgive. Why can't we choose to forgive? Because the revenge circuits in the brain are much stronger than the love circuits, and we may not even activate the love circuits because of the childhood traumas, because of wrong worldview drilled into us too soon, because of too much intellectuality or hyperactivity. We cannot keep attention on anything. Except these negative emotions, of course, they creep into us. Even if we don't pay attention, they become part of who we are. Never quiet, so we can always change. They never become part of character, but they become very strongly entrenched habits. And this is why people all over the world complain of difficulties they are having with negativity. They cannot forgive others, they cannot forgive themselves. Okay, that's enough for a beginning of a discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a very nice perspective. But following that perspective, I would like to now move to Dr. Anisor. And being a medical doctor, a healer, how do you see forgiveness affecting that aspect, the healing aspect?
Right. So, of course, the quantum healing and real health refers not just to the health of the physical body, right? When you say love, you say happiness, you say anything that has to do with the state of integration and spiritual awakening, even it also refers to the state of health. And forgiveness, as just as love, actually it's an active path. You can even call it a path, because especially when it's something very deep, which eventually requires your complete transformation, and even engage in this, what is called fundamental creativity, when it's something really painful or traumatic, as Amit was mentioning, then it will force you to transform, and you need to become, of course, you will become responsible. But first of all, you have to see, again, starting with the base level human condition and looking in the mirror honestly about ourselves, because the lack of forgiveness is there in the background of many symptoms, which many times they are chronic, like anxiety, for example, panic attacks, insomnia, and then, of course, hypertension, or, of course, cases of cancer, especially for women, right, but not only. And people which are getting more and more depressed in any way, kind of lacking the love for life anymore. So all these symptoms, if you perpetuate a way of living where you strengthen, unfortunately, these negative emotional brain circuits, which one of them, again, is due to the lack of forgiveness. And if you keep doing that, eventually you will see that you end up in a state when everybody is just stepping on your toes, as how to say. So you'll just get upset for nothing, And the more this is happening, it's really ringing some bells for you, that you need to take action. And that's why I say forgiveness is something that you do actively. It's not just something which happens to you. Okay? Like I said, like love, like abundance, and any real path. Yeah. Forgiveness is something which is essential, and it's something very deep. It's not, as some people say, that only the weak people are able to forgive. Like, not like that, not at all. You know, actually, it's kind of the part of a hero, because it takes a lot to come out of that victimhood, you know, the victim state, where you're just blaming others or the world or even God or all that, you know, instead of becoming responsible and really look there. Because many times of course, you know very well, many of you, that this has to start with healing your childhood and applying that to whatever happened in that time. And eventually you manifest in that life those lessons over and over, especially if it's the same kind of scenario which is repeating. You know, then you have to work with the forgiveness in an active way up to the first person that kind of triggered that situation, you know, which is, again, it's a call for transformation. So there are a lot of studies which are done. You can easily do some research on psychology, medicine, especially on cancer, and people which are truly changing their life radically. They are becoming like totally another person, you know, for those who knew them before, after they apply clearly the forgiveness. And there are, of course, many methods. Yeah, but the first thing is that you need to become aware of all the energies, to become aware of everything that is involved there, not try to put it under the carpet, because again, forgiveness has nothing to do with forgetting. Okay, and again, it's so much to talk about this. Let's see how much we can do now. But the idea is, of course, that eventually you will also discover in this process that healthy self-love, self-shaming the brain and the negative emotional brain circuits that come along, and you will understand how working with forgiveness leads to also strengthening many of the positive emotional brain circuits that come along. Yeah, and also the way you see the world, a person, or a situation is transforming, because when you are in a suffering mode, you distort the reality. That's obvious. I think most of you are aware of that. You don't see the reality as it is, especially from that state of victimhood. So again, the way that you see the world is transforming together with us, you know. And now it's something that we do, you know, we learn how to do, but eventually it will become something that we are. And starting with what the quantum worldview wants from us, you know, which is definitely talking about transformation of humanity, starting with every single individual. So forgiveness is something which starts with ourselves, right? And changing. Imagine how how it would be a world where we don't react so negative, you know, like somebody is hurting you, or you think that is hurting you, and then you react immediately back, right? Or you're closing yourself down, or all that. And instead, finding that wisdom to hold your ground, you know, and to hold that space for healing yourself or for healing the other person also. And eventually this reflects into the world. So every single human being, for everybody, is essential to learn to forgive. And many times when we try to do that, if we are stuck in the process and we just cannot do it because something is too difficult to forgive, and you know, even if you want it, you have to maybe start with doing it for yourself, self-forgiveness. Okay, and many times this is very, very difficult, because you don't even know that it's kind of, you are getting a wipe, you know, on your back from somebody maybe, and then you're wiping yourself 100 times more. So it is you actually which is keeping you in this vicious circle, which is creating eventually all that destruction. And eventually, again, you go to disease, to autoimmune diseases even. And then it's difficult. And if you are one of these people which is staying in this state of sufferance and just waiting for something else, no way. You need to step out immediately and take action and be on your side, first of all. Don't just stay in this situation, because it's kind of, you're stepping on your heart. And once you destroy some levels there in this way, staying, like just staying and staying and staying in the sufferance mode. Just ask for some help, and start doing good things for yourself, and start again with manifesting the intent honestly to forgive yourself, to forgive that action, to forgive those people. And again, you will see what's happening, that after some time, which again can be years, all that situation, like out of the blue, as if a manifestation of a quantum leap can appear in that way and will appear, but you need to be patient, very, very much patient, and all that will remain from all that action, which was so painful, so unbearable. Okay, you felt that your heart was dying there. It's not like that. The heart is not dying in this way, but we may have this feeling. We may even die from that, of course. But still, when you apply successfully forgiveness, which is manifesting like a fundamental divine attribute that we are accumulating in our being, eventually all that remains is a state of love and gratitude. And then eventually, again, you step out from this very dangerous and destructive circle, which not only can lead to diseases, physical diseases, but also to make you kind of be dead inside, and there are so many in this situation nowadays. And then you just get to take some pills, and this is not the way. You need to be courageous in life. Definitely, courage is a great quality. But again, even if you have done already all kind of progress in various directions, your level of consciousness will not truly elevate, unless we manage to forgive and let go all these resentments, all these desires of revenge that Amit was talking about. Okay. And even if you had all kind of very, very special spiritual states, even you have some access to awaken various chakras, even higher chakras, but still, if you cannot forgive, you will never be able to let go all these ghosts of the past, that you may keep inside of you, and still you keep this resonance, which eventually will pull you down. So again, practically the key to access to this divine forgiveness is our firm and clearly manifested intent to forgive and to integrate gradually and deeply, constantly, this energy of this divine attribute of forgiveness in our life. And even if now maybe we don't know how to do that, it's enough that to truly want that and to manifest clearly the intent and the will to forgive. And in this way, eventually we learn how to do it. And you will even notice slowly that it's easier than you initially thought. Yeah. And of course, it's when you do it in a group, it's much easier. And we have our groups of meditation, and we do it, if not every month, every second month, or every third month, we do in unison this process of forgiveness, one of the methods or two methods sometimes. And it's really, really powerful. And I can see the way the people are gradually, literally shining after consciously engaging in this kind of process and understanding, because then you see how the forgiveness is indeed the key of annihilation of any trauma or affective tensions. Yeah, the key for a deep transformation and purification. And only in this way we can annihilate all the traumas, stress, tension, resentments. So you can do the EFT, you can do the tapping, you can do all kinds of things, but eventually you need to get to this. You cannot keep these things under the carpet. Yeah. But you have to take it slowly in some cases, yeah, but not too slowly, again, because again, if you keep being very, very slow, and just waiting passively that something happens, it's not going to happen. You will just destroy your health, definitely. So it's not the case to do that. Be on your side. There are many conditions which are needed to be added. First of all, to be humble, to know that not always you know the whole situation, because many times when you're hurt, you are like the judge, so you're only right and all the others are wrong. Yeah. So learning the humbleness in whatever way, it's essential. And then cultivating gratitude, because knowing that we are here in a school of learning here, it's also something. And of course, there are lessons for you. It doesn't mean that you become a victim. Yeah. like kind of you deserve that. It's not that, not at all like that. But unfortunately, we don't have in our education in the early age methods for cultivating simply a state of attention, to being attentive to what resonances we cultivate in our life, or to even love ourselves in a healthy way, or to respect ourselves, all that. So you have to start from somewhere, but you have to know that you deserve to manifest the state of forgiveness for yourself first of all. Okay, it's a lot to say, Krishana.
Yeah, it was nice. I was just wondering, see, intellectually, we might understand forgiveness is so important, and particularly when the attention is drawn to these facts that both Dr. Goswami and you have spoken, it is at this very time I am feeling okay, I should forgive. But something happens tomorrow, or once I leave this room, and I again go back to the old circuit and become angry and looking for revenge. But is there a way, as you mentioned, that you have meditation practices? Is it possible to, demonstrate a small practice within the time frame that we have, maybe another 5-6 minutes? Is it possible?
Yeah, we can, of course, we can try to do that.
Good.
The methods are long. I mean, to be honest, you need to give it a lot of time. In psychology, there are many methods, even to write, for example. I mean, I'm just sharing this like shortly, like just to the method of the 2 letters. You can study, look, Google it, find it. And 1 letter where you put objectively, like if things that you may not be able to say if you would be in front of the person who has hurted you, or that you think that it hurt you, and put it there. And the other one is like you are putting there the answer of that person. Eventually we realize that you cannot even be completely in this person's shoes. So again, humbleness will make place there. So that's one method. But other methods, okay, one which we can do is from the Tibetan tradition. Just shortly, so it's a Buddhist practice of compassion and love and alchemizing our mind. First of all, of course, you need to understand why you want to do that. You need to be on your side, yeah? And in this way, you'll bring God on your side as well. So you need to manifest honestly and with all your being. The more honest you are, the intent will have the power. So you manifest the intent, in the stages that we know in the quantum science. So first of all, for yourself, then for the whole world, and you surrender this intent to God's will or to the movement of consciousness. So this is how you manifest the intent. Check the other recordings for more. And so manifest this intent honestly, and you settle in a moment of centering and silence, stillness. Learn to do that. Learn about mental hygiene, and eventually get into this kind of moment with yourself. For example, you can sit with the back straight, keep the attention on the breathing, move it completely on the breathing without influencing it. And give yourself time to do that, at least 5 minutes. And then from that state, you manifest this intent to forgive. For example, just to forgive yourself for something. It's good to be specific. You manifest the intent in the stages. Now I'm just giving the recipe, but we cannot do it now. You can contact us maybe if you want to be in our groups for meditation. So you manifest the intent in the 3 stages. And then what you do, you can simply evoke the presence of God, or call it quantum self as you wish, above your head. So simply evoke the divine in your being above your head, and you evoke it to manifest in and through us compassion and love for all the beings from all the worlds. And you visualize an overflow of light, grace, and love entering through the top of your head and descending through our hearts, include the navel area. And from all these levels, it expands to all the beings in all the worlds. Simply do this simple exercise of love, compassion, which will also alchemize your mind and prepare you for a wonderful day. You can do it in the beginning of the day or also for a beautiful night. even if it seems very simple. Once you feel it and you settle in this very simple practice, the results will be huge. So practice it, and there is more.
Okay, we also have run out of time. So quickly, if Dr. Goswami wants to have any message to our audience.
Yeah, just one thing that I could add to this, which is perhaps important for the listener to be aware of. Uh, what happens when we don't forgive is a very serious matter because it develops us into what is called a defensive character. We become defensive, and it is a very dangerous thing. I said before, it never quite becomes a character, so don't worry that you cannot change it. You can, but that defensiveness, when it becomes a very strong trait in you, what it does, it literally prevents you to engage in loving relationship in an intimate way with another person. Intimate way meaning in an ongoing way. Sure, you can be good to a person that's momentary, you can do that, but you will not be able to bring the immune system even into temporary suspension, which is needed for the heart to become quantum and engage in an advanced function of love. And this is such a sad thing to happen to you because love, not only it sounds great from romantic point of view, but really it is our huge advantage over lower animals in terms of getting into higher potentiality. Human beings have worldview, have so much capacity to manifesting so many creative things from higher dimensions, potentiality, because of this capacity that we can expand if the occasion demands it. But when we become this defensive person, then we can't even do that. We cannot even suspend the immune system for a brief period of time, let alone the disease that it causes, cancer, all those things Valentina already mentioned. So please remember this and learn to forgive. Forgive others, that's the heart, and forgive yourself. That's the major chapter. And your life will become better. No question about it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, both of you. This was really a wonderful description of what forgiveness can do for us. And literally, if we follow this, then we have a much better life ahead because we will be able to get rid of all these baggages that we carry and the suppression and other things that create a lot of problems inside us. We will be looking for a much more cheerful present day and future days. And this is something that we all look forward to. Thank you so much. We have crossed our time for the day. We will come back next week with another subject, and I'm sure that from these two great teachers, all our audiences will learn a lot more. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.